welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for, could be Sunday, could be Wednesday, could be Friday, just, was after all, it's your podcast. 2019 rolls on, and the Kickstarter train has well and truly left the station, and along the way we have... Tuesday last week was absolutely crazy for Kickstarters, but there has been one shining light in the fog of Kickstarter that's been, bringing in gamers to safety and everything like that. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy. It doesn't matter. However, Carla from Weird Giraffe Games, and she was talking last time about her new venture called Galactic Raptor Games. Well, she got in contact with me a couple of weeks ago because there's a game on Kickstarter right now, which is Galactic Raptor's first game. It's a game called Animal Kingdoms. It's not designed by her, and it's not designed by Dan, who she's working alongside on Galactic Raptor. It's designed by Steven Aramini. Steven Aramini is joining us to have a little chat about Animal Kingdoms, the fully funded Animal Kingdoms, might I add, as well. So, hello to you, Stephen. How are you, sir?
Hello, sir. Thank you for having me.
It's good. It's good to hear you without a cough. Thank you, first of all, for coming on. I know this is probably the worst time within a campaign that you could be possibly kind of spending time kind of chatting to idiotic Scotsman like myself, but at the time of recording, there is only like about 5 days to go in the campaign, but you have almost hit the magical $30,000 out of a funding goal of only $9,000. So what's mood like in camp at the moment? How you feeling about all this?
Good. Yeah, I think the timing's perfect, actually, because I think with, Kickstarter's that final 48 hour spike, I think it's going to see some more stretch goals and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think it's kind of a cool time if people haven't heard of it to check it out, because like you said, it's fully funded and it's kind of ripping through some pretty fun stretch goals. And most of the stretch goals are like component quality upgrades and stuff, but it's kind of nice to have that in the rearview mirror of not having to sweat whether or not it will fund and just kind of watching it grow now. Mm-hmm. So it's been awesome. That's good.
The game itself, Animal Kingdoms isn't something that's just come out of nowhere. It's for those in the know in the community. It won a kind of a Cardboard Edison award. When did you win that when did you win the award, and how long ago was that?
So that award they do once a year, and I won it last year. It was around March, I think or March or April when they announced it. And that was like almost immediately after they announced that award. I was in talks with Dan and Carla, mm-hmm. and we ended up, I ended up signing with those guys, like, I want to say within the month after that contest.
Was it kind of strange, it must have been strange kind of winning the award in the first place. Was that a really, really pleasant surprise, knowing, or did you have a kind of an idea that Animal Kingdoms was kind of, was going to get noticed at the time when you put it there?
No, I want to say there were almost 300 entries. So I think I didn't feel like I had a great shot with those kinds of odds. But when it became a finalist, then, it got whittled down to, I think, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 20 games. Mm-hmm. And then it was just really exciting to just watch, the posts and stuff from all the different judges and stuff. And you never really know, but I guess it worked out. So yeah, it was unexpected, but really kind of a fun journey throughout.
Was it been in development for some time the Animal Kingdom.
Probably before the Cardboard Edison Award, probably about, I don't know, like maybe 6 to 9 months before that. So not a ton of time. And it sort of started that year before, and it actually was not an animal theme at all. It was a deep sea fishing game. And yeah. So I think I was looking at maybe like Fleet and kind of thinking, oh, that was kind of a cool theme. What if I tried to put a spin on that? And so the idea was, you, instead of going to kingdoms, you're going to these different seas and trying to fish out the fish and stuff and bring them back to market and sell them. But yeah, that early version had a market in it, and so you would adjust the market and stuff. And when I got rid of the market aspect, because it was just kind of getting in the way of the gameplay, then the deep sea fishing thing didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And so I ended up switching it to the kingdoms, and the animal. The idea of just making them animals was really just to make it more colorful, and I think just a little different than just your typical knights and sort of the typical medieval game.
Yeah. Was it one of? I mean, have you had quite a few games in the kind of the Aramini portfolio? Is this one that you just went, I'll just put this one in? Or, I mean, have you got a couple of designs kind of in the notepad, I guess?
Oh yeah, always. I'm always like tinkering.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have just different ones in different states. So it's kind of how I like to design, is to have different games in sort of different states of completion. Some are just like super raw state, and some are signed and we're just kind of finessing, and others are, kind of in that middle ground. But that's, because this isn't my job to design this. I just do this on the side and, evenings and weekends. So I have to enjoy what I'm doing. And I think by breaking it up and not being too focused on just one game 100% of the time, I think it keeps me just kind of motivated and energized when I do dive into whatever game I'm taking on.
Have you been designing long? I mean, has this been something that you've been doing since you kind of got involved in the hobby? Or has it been something that you've kind of slowly found yourself kind of slipping into?
No, I went into the hobby sort of with the tail wagging the dog, I guess you could say, because I started designing before I really even knew the hobby. Mm-hmm. I just had an idea for a game, and I was a non-gamer, you would say. And my day job is advertising, so I'm a creative director, and I was working with an art director, and we were just like saying, hey, it'd be really cool to put a game together just as an interesting, almost like an art project. So we put a game together called Payload, which ended up being renamed as Yardmaster. Oh, right. And that was in 2013. And then that one I ended up signing the next year, and that sort of just got me hooked, obviously, on game design because I had success with that one. Yeah. But that was right around the time of doing that. That's when I really just discovered, I decided to go to a meetup and go, what is this board game hobby? And I probably should know a little more about it since I'm trying to get into it. Yeah. And that's when, it just blew my mind in terms of like, whoa, there's so much creativity and there's so many game titles that, as a non-hobby gamer, especially like 5 years ago when it wasn't even that prevalent in a lot of the big box stores, it's like you had no idea the hobby was as expansive as it was. So yeah, I kind of got into design and the hobby at the same time, and I've just been hooked ever since.
Are you one of the people that do you have quite a substantial collection of games? I mean, when you fell in, did you kind of fall in deep? Did you, have you got like several shelves that you can be proud of and have a shelfie with? Or
my wife would probably tell you I have way too many games, but I feel like I'm pretty restrained, actually. I actually typically don't buy a game unless I've already played it and really, really enjoy it. there's been some exceptions to that with Kickstarters, but that's primarily, friends of mine who have put Kickstarters out or other people, contacts in the industry that I want to support and I like their games and stuff. But otherwise, I usually try to restrain myself and wait and play it at a game night. And then if I really like it and say, okay, I could see myself playing this a couple of times to justify buying it. So I have a lot of games, but I'm not in the hundreds category yet.
Have you bought any this month so far?
Well, let's see. Well, for Christmas, I got a couple of games for Christmas.
Right.
Like I got Decrypto and Raiders of the North Sea.
I've heard that's very good.
Yeah, it's if you're into worker placement, it's pretty fun. So I got those two. I'm trying to think what else. And then I backed Overworld Games has another one out right now called New Salem. So I backed that one.
Yeah, saw that one, yeah.
And I know Overworld because they put out a game of mine called Barker's Row. So
okay.
I've been a fan of them and following them, and so those are kind of some of the new ones.
Oh, cool. Okay. With you kind of running, obviously, the Kickstarter campaign just now, and being involved in the design, have you found that in terms of the community, do you know kind of more designers than actual gamers in terms of kind of like the social circle?
In terms of like social media, for sure, because like with Twitter, I follow pretty much all I use Twitter for is to follow game designers and people that do game design, and then also publishers and people that just sort of contribute to the community, whether it's podcasting or writing articles or whatnot. But so in that regard, I follow a lot of game designers. Locally, obviously, most of the gamers I work with are not game designers, but luckily I do have like a small circle locally of game designers that, we usually test each other's stuff because, as you probably know, you don't want to go to a game night and play a broken, half broken game and stuff and have that be your game night. So we kind of get together as game designers because we're all on the same page in terms of, hey, we're going to play prototypes tonight. So it's nice to have that circle of friends locally that you can kind of go to. But yeah,
are they a bit more brutal with feedback then because they're designers? I mean, do you have kind of like have moments where you say like, okay, just bring it on, tell me what the worst is, and then they tell you what the worst is, and you're like, you didn't have to tell me what the worst is. You could have been more gentle than that. Thanks very much. And then you turn running off into the night, kind of crying, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, my sort of my go-to group, which is my friends Danny and Paul and Joe, they can be brutal. But I won't say brutal because that sounds cruel, but I mean they will be. They will not pull punches in terms of if something's not working or whatever. But it's always coming from a good place, in terms of wanting to, get you to a better game. And that core group I think they're really good at, helping me shape a game because there's a lot of, sort of casual playtesters, that I think bring a lot to a playtest, but they, with that core group, I feel like I've got a really good rapport in terms of understanding how to make the game better through their feedback. So it's cool having that core group that I really trust, and especially for those early tests when you're afraid to show it to anyone but your mother.
I wouldn't probably do that because she would be going, cardboard again, really, in this house? What have I told you? She'd be more comfortable if I brought drugs in or something like that, to be perfectly honest. But I mean,
she's the most brutal.
Exactly. But no, I mean, there's obviously that element of trust because you don't want I can imagine the worst thing doing is that you're sitting there having spent like 5 weeks playtesting a game, but somebody hasn't decided to mention something to you just in case, they don't want to kind of annoy you or hurt your feelings or something, and then you take it to a new group and then somebody just comes along and just breaks the entire game within kind of like the first couple of moves, and you're just like, guys, why didn't you tell me? It's like, well, Steven, you're a nice guy, and we didn't want to hurt your feelings, and that kind of thing. Was it when, say, like Carla and Dan got involved in Animal Kingdoms? Was that a new experience in terms of kind of like the feedback and the development? I mean, obviously you won the Cardboard Edison Award, but when they got their experience hands into it, did they then want to tinker with Animal Kingdoms, or were they quite happy with where you were with the game at that point?
They were pretty happy with the core mechanics, right, and sort of the core gameplay. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why they signed it, because, they both have their own companies. Dan has Letterman Games, Carla has Weird Giraffe Games. And so that's kind of their own passion projects. And so with Galactic Raptor, I think they wanted to sign something that they felt was pretty set in terms of the core mechanics, and they could just sort of work on refining it. So that's what they did. And yeah, because they're both designers themselves, it was a really good process, because I think we were able to, kind of approach it from the same wavelength of wanting the best thing for the game. And, they had some ideas to just bring, I think, a little more streamlining to it, and also make it more thematic and have more of that table presence. Because originally the game was just a card game, and it was like very abstract feeling. And so they added, of course, like this amazing artwork that brought it to life. But, they also introduced the concept of a board game, or of a board. Mm-hmm. And, I think just having that board just made it so much more accessible in terms of understanding that you're going for these kingdoms, and it's a 5-sided board. And so there's 5 kingdoms, and a big part of the game is playing off of your left and right kingdom. So it just made a lot more sense in terms of gameplay to bring it into that sort of, what, I don't know what I'd call that updated version of the game.
Mm-hmm. Was there not a board before then? Were you just playing with the cards before? Was that how it was working?
Yeah, it was just a big deck of cards, and right. I think that was just because I was trying to make something, I guess, more as compact and few components as possible. But yeah, they basically were like, "Hey, this is a great game that we love the mechanics, but we really want to bring out a little bit more of a game experience with it." So that was great.
Okay, I mean, yeah. So they were able to kind of bring something to that. I guess put something extra on the table that you were like, okay, it's not a case you were going in a different direction. It was a case they were actually able to maybe open your eyes to the actual possibilities, I guess, with them having the kind of the experience and pushing it kind of commercially out. They weren't afraid maybe to expand on it a bit, I guess, which was kind of cool. Did you like the changes that they made then?
Oh yeah, I think it's probably my most beautiful game, really. In terms of just how it looks, and when you put it on the table, it grabs your attention. And I think that just the design decisions they've made and the art direction decisions they've made. And we talked about, adding a few things. We did tweak a few things. We definitely streamlined the scoring, for example, and just, we explored a couple of things, but I think at the end of the day, it was just some minor tinkering and more just giving a lot of love to making it, just feel more like a finished, polished game. So it was all, it's been a really great experience.
And did the artwork change quite a bit then? I mean, because the artwork's stunning. I mean, it's very, very striking indeed.
Well, the original, I just used, just stock animal images and stuff. So I really had no idea what they were going to do stylistically. And, so they found Katie Grierson, who did the art, and they ended up going in a direction that was more like Art Nouveau, and, really stuck with like these animals that looked like animals, but then they sort of had a little bit of humanistic qualities in terms of having, like, they're wearing jewelry or they're wearing, feather headdresses and stuff, and just some things to kind of make them feel more regal and make them feel not totally anthropomorphic, but like, just a little hint of like, these are animals battling for kingdoms. Mm-hmm. So, I thought the artwork to me is, I couldn't have asked for a better style. And it wasn't a style I was really thinking, I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. I guess I kind of I wasn't really getting hung up on the style. That's why I was like, I'm just going to let the publishers figure that out.
Exactly. Well, it also be one of these things where you had, right, okay, design a game. Okay, now what? Just like, I don't know, put it to Carlo Edison. Okay, well, I won that. Now what? I don't know, get it signed. Okay, well, I got it signed. Now what? I don't know, just, do the extra additions that they want to get done. Okay, now what? They've done that. Now what? I've art, maybe? Okay. It was that kind of pleasant surprise where they put it in front of you and they went, right, okay, it's not that we've got you changed your baby. It's just that we've given it a nice, pretty hat to wear instead. Because it must have been beautiful when they were sending over the files to you and saying, okay, well, this is the stuff that Katie's done for this bit. This is the stuff that they've done for like you've got the red raccoon in there, and I'm just like, oh, I want one. But that must have been like a little bit of a moment there when there's somebody saying, like, we're going to take the game that you've got and look what we're doing to make it even more beautiful.
Yeah, totally. And I think for me, I guess I've recognized that's not my strong suit. I like to design the game and then just leave it in the hands of experts to say, okay, here's how we're going to make it a beautiful game, and here's how we're going to help it turn into a marketable game. And then, of course, all the work and efforts it takes to, bring it to Kickstarter and then ultimately get it into distribution and all those things that are way beyond what I want to do or know how to do. So it's super nice to just be able to just say, I'm just going to concentrate on designing this game. And luckily the dominoes all sort of fell into place that I was able to just do that and concentrate on that. And then they just picked it up and ran it home to the finish line. This is my 7th Kickstarter.
Whoa.
So I worked with Dan at Letterman Games before on a game called Groves. So that's how I knew Dan, is I sort of had the in with Dan because we were co-designers for Groves.
All right, okay.
And but I've done a couple other Kickstarters through some other, all the companies have been sort of like Carla and Dan, where they're all sort of one person wonders and just trying to do more indie design. So through one channel or another, I've been lucky enough to hook up with quite a few small publishers, and usually when they're small publishers, they kind of have to go through Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So pretty much all my projects have gone through
all right,
Kickstarter.
Okay. Does that mean in terms of like your day job, your kind of advertising, kind of marketing expertise, has that kind of helped with then kind of running those projects, that you've been able to kind of, rather than do the thing where it says, well, okay, I'm the designer, it means I've got to go and maybe do a couple of podcasts, do like a live stream, during the Kickstarter campaign. Were you able to kind of go in with some professional advice, kind of say, well, maybe we should do this and maybe we should do that to help with kind of like the marketing, spreading the word, creating the noise kind of thing?
I would say all the publishers have been really great in terms of collaboration stuff, but I will say I've kind of kept my nose out of the Kickstarter stuff. I mean, obviously, if there's something I would say I was concerned about, I would voice it. And they would listen to those kinds of things. But in terms of Kickstarter, is so much its own animal. It's like so separate, especially from the marketing I do, because I'm in Reno, which is like the majority of what I do is like gaming related, not board gaming, but like gambling.
Oh, right.
Casino industry. So that's a lot of the clients we have. So it's just like, it's so worlds apart from like the tabletop game industry.
And you don't want to be like this. Take a gamble. Back our project.
Luck is on your side.
Pick a pledge level. You can either pick the red pledge level or the black pledge level, and at the end of the campaign, one of the pledge levels will get the game, and the other one won't.
You get nothing.
Get nothing. We just keep all your money.
We could try that. See how it goes.
Send them a backers update saying, "Sorry, house wins." I reckon you're right. I think we're making it too easy on these Kickstarter backers. All they do is they give us money, and then they sit and wait. I think it's about time we made it challenging. I think they're getting it far too easy. I think we should.
I like it. You can make the first ever gambling Kickstarter where you may get something awesome, or you may just get nothing.
You get like an empty box full of tears. Do you know what? I reckon folk would back that as well. If you said there's a 50% chance you're going to get something, and then there's this 50% chance you're going to get nothing, and we're going to be co-sponsored by Ninja Division. Oops. But yeah, I think that would be, I think that has to be something I have to have a think about, and then I need to completely kind of disregard that. Because folk could be listening and going, he's not done that with his own Kickstarter, has he? He's not going to send out boxes of stuff. No, I'm definitely not thinking about that at all. But when you're putting it out to Kickstarter, was it strange? Because obviously Carla's known she's done a couple of projects now, and obviously Dan's known for doing his projects as well. Was it weird it coming under kind of like the Galactic Raptor name itself? Because Galactic Raptors, obviously, it's a relatively, on the Kickstarter landscape, would be seen as a relatively new kind of company to deal with. I mean, if you go, normally what I would do is, if I see somebody new on the horizon, I go into their profile and I check the number of campaigns that they've backed and also the number that they've created. So is it a bit different? Obviously, Carla and Dan were able to say to you, look, we've done all these projects in the past, but this again itself was going to be a kind of a new venture. Galactic Raptor Games didn't seem to have obviously the history around it, so it's kind of relying on the previous goodwill of what kind of Carla and Dan created. Did that concern you at all in any way, shape, or form?
No, actually, I was pretty comfortable with it, just because Carla, I think, how should I say? Both Carla and Dan, to me, have really good reputations in terms of coming through, using quality products and caring about their designs and the final product. So I am a follower. I had not worked with Carla, but I follow her on Twitter, and I was familiar with a lot of the games that she had put out, and I knew Dan, of course, because I'd worked with him firsthand. There was just like this comfort factor that I didn't really, it never entered my mind like, oh, this is a first time company. I was more like excited that it was a first time company, because I was like, oh wow, these two great people are sort of combining forces, and they want to both, put their expertise together to put it together. And so to me, it was kind of like I was getting two companies in one. And it was kind of exciting to just also have them go, we want this to be the first game in the lineup, and we're going to throw all our efforts into this game because there's nothing else in the pipeline for Galactic Raptor. So yeah, for me, it was just like, I don't know if that was, I wasn't, maybe should have been more concerned, but no, it's all working out. So I don't know. So it's all good.
I know that Carla's so passionate about it. I know that she kind of really, really cares. I've not had many dealings with kind of Dan at all. But I know, because I'm on the opposite side to you. It's like I know Carla's very, very passionate. She cares extremely deeply about the kind of the quality of the product that she's putting out there and making sure she's always communicating with the backers and everything like that, which is one of the reasons when she contacted me and said, Steven's working with us on this game that's going to go to Kickstarter. What is it? Well, you saw the email. I just said, yeah, no problem at all. Just, there wasn't even a thought behind it. I just was straight in and said, okay, if you're doing something new, I will kind of support you kind of where I can, because I know that Carla's not one of these people that isn't, she's genuine to really committed to kind of putting out some really, really good games. So it was a no-brainer as far as I was concerned. Still, I mean, even with your Kickstarter experience yourself, were you surprised at how quickly this game got funded? Because it funded relatively quickly after the kind of the launch window.
Yeah, you never know. Obviously, with Kickstarter, it could go really good or really bad. And I think the biggest concern, as you were sort of commenting on, when January hit, there were like so many Kickstarters that were hitting right in that same week, and a lot of them were like really big, either an expansion to like Western Legends, or there was like that sequel to what is it? Is it called Suro?
Yes.
Suro, that came out. Yeah. And then like a big War of the Worlds game came out. And then, there were just like a ton of like Kickstarters that were like really high profile Kickstarters that, there are only so many backers out there that are willing to throw their money at games, especially all at the same time. So yeah, there's definitely that moment of like, oh man, I hope ours can cut through that clutter. But I do think that the artwork, I felt really confident that it would at least get a lot of people looking at it because it's so beautiful. And, I was hopeful that they would then learn a little more about the game. And I think it is a pretty accessible game. It's sort of like this family weight, like anybody can play it, but there's still some strategy for, both non-gamers will enjoy it, but hobby gamers, I think, would enjoy it. So I think that sort of cast a wider net than a more maybe niche game would. So I did feel pretty good about at least it having a sort of that gameplay style that I thought would attract a wider audience.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of for myself, I think one of the most attractive things about it, as well as the artwork, is the kind of the price point as well. In my view, Kickstarter had for a while, or seemed to be edging towards being quite ridiculous in terms of the prices. And there was a big difference between putting down $79 on a game and putting down like $129 on a game, which seems to have been the way that, things are going. I mean, obviously it's the beginning of the year, so we'll see what else kind of behemoths and monsters come out there. But that seems to be these bigger guys. There has been some issues with fulfillment and people kind of getting their games on these kind of monster games. So, one of the things is like, the entry level for Animal Kingdoms, it's like $29.
Yeah, and that includes shipping in the US. I think it's a little bit, I don't remember how much more it is for other countries and stuff.
$10,
but yeah, the price point was,
the
price point was, like you said, it's an easier ask than a $200 minis game.
No, yeah. I mean, but even the kind of the deluxe version was only $45, which again was kind of like pretty much, it wasn't. Again, it's not a huge ask compared to that's what normally, an average price of a game isn't even $45 nowadays. I don't think you can't easily pick up a copy of Scythe or, any of the kind of popular games for kind of anywhere kind of near that price. So it's a kind of a very, very kind of easy way. I mean, again, do you think that's one of the reasons why it's kind of done so well? Is that $29 compared to like $100 is just, for a lot of people, it's just like, well, it's a no-brainer. I would spend this on, if I was buying myself a kind of a takeout meal, for instance,
Yeah.
I'd be expected to pay round about that anyway. So, for that to get a board game instead, that's, it's a pretty easy kind of ask.
Yeah, definitely. I think as hobbies go, I think it's a pretty affordable hobby, So I think I always feel like if I compare it to like going to a movie, if I go to a movie with my wife and let's say you buy popcorn or whatever, that's a game.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a one-time experience. And I feel like with the games, I always feel like I get their value, even if you only end up getting it to the table a couple of times. I just feel like it's a great entertainment value. So, another game, like last year, I had a game Kickstart called Sprawlopolis, which is from a company called Button Shy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I heard of Button Shy. Yeah.
Yeah. So they just do these little 18 cards wallet games, and for them, it's that. I think their games are only $10 on Kickstarter, so it's one of those games that, like you said, it just becomes really easy to just be like, oh, if that looks interesting, it's $10.
Exactly.
It's like two cups of coffee.
Yeah.
And I feel like, at least for me personally, I just get so much more enjoyment out of playing a game. So to me, it's like, yeah, it's a great investment. And the fact that they were able to keep the price point really low like that, I think is definitely, I think it has attracted and made a few people pull the trigger when they might not have if it was, $15, even $10, $15 more than it was.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's down to kind of like, again, the relationships that Carla and Dan have with kind of like the manufacturers and shipping companies and everything like that. Because I guess to be able to just phone them up and say, "Hi, it's me again. Can we, what are you able to do if we get this number of units kind of printed?" So they must have a little bit of kind of obviously leverage with the kind of the experience that they have. In terms of the gameplay, do you want to give us the kind of the quick kind of, I guess, kind of synopsis about, what's the game and kind of a quick rundown of how you play it, just for people who haven't looked at the campaign yet?
Yeah, sure. So the board is a 5-sided board, and it's made up of 5 different kingdoms. Each player has a handful of cards, and these are your animal cards, and those are made up of a suit, so a different type of animal, and a rank, value between 1 and 8. And so basically at the beginning of each round, you're going to place out what are called decrees, which are these placement rules. They're almost like rummy style placement rules. Some may be you have to create a sequence from 1 to 8 in order to play to this kingdom. And others might be based on certain animals. Others play off of your left and right kingdom, depending on what's been played there. So you sort of have to analyze the state of the board and manage your hand to determine where you can play a card. When you play a card to a kingdom, then you get to basically claim a territory within that kingdom. And ultimately what you're trying to do is get majority in as many of the kingdoms as you can, because at the end of each round, then points are awarded based on how well you basically did in each kingdom.
Okay.
And it takes place over 3 rounds, and each round you have a influence cube that you have the opportunity to sort of graduate to a council area. So this gives you a little bit of carryover into the next round. So in one of the kingdoms, each round, you'll start to build up a little bit of added influence, and that can sort of help with your long-term strategy. So that's sort of it in a nutshell.
What's the feedback you've had so far, kind of like, from kind of reviewers and previewers? It seems to have all been like very positive.
Yeah, everything's been super positive, and I think it seems to be falling in, to that type of game, like I said, that non-gamers can play and appreciate, but that hobby gamers also are going to enjoy, because it's a really low barrier in terms of rules and sort of the explanation and getting it to the table, but it has that strategy that hobby gamers can enjoy. So I sort of equate it to like a game like, like a Splendor or Lanterns or World's Fair, those kind of games that are like, you can play, you can set up, you can teach it and play it in under an hour, and you feel like you've actually played a game that you had to use your brain.
I think that's important nowadays. I think there's a lot of games, well, I know of a lot of, even myself, that I'm guilty for, my friends that are guilty for, that we've all got games kind of sitting on the shelf. And one of the reasons that we end up keeping them on the shelf is because the accessibility to get the game learned and to even get the game played takes a good hour and a half to kind of get to that point, and
yeah. Oh yeah.
And nowadays, when you're kind of like your time, you can be time poor, and you've got maybe a couple of times a week, or it can be for some people a couple of times a month, or their game time could be quite less. Some people have the luxury of playing 3 or 4 times a week. Other people have less time. But if not being able to get a game, I don't think there's anything more frustrating than kind of like, let's play this tonight, and then you manage to learn the rules, get through a couple of rounds, and then it's pack up time. And then you realise if you got to play it again, you've got to set everything up and kind of put it all out. So again, it's like you kind of fall into this nice kind of level of knowing that you're going to get a game played, which is always kind of exciting and also satisfying as well. I don't think there's anything more kind of frustrating than going, yeah, we know how to play this and it's time to go home, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been
unless
there.
It's Treasure Island, which we played the last time that we were a club. It took longer to set up than to play because I don't know if you've played it, but it's like the hidden kind of find the treasure game. And we kind of got the first 2 clues up, and the first 2 clues came up, and they kind of worked in such a way that it's like somebody just went, "Is the treasure here?" And Colin went,
"Yeah, that's
yes, it is." And then that was it. It was like the second go, and we stood around and went, "Do we play it again?" And it's like I don't know. It's really close to kind of pack up. It was good fun. It was kind of, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's one of these games where you get to. So one of you plays like the pirates, and the other one plays like the guys that drive treasure hunter, and you basically get clues, and you actually write on the board because it's like a dry wipe marker board. So you get to kind of like draw all over your little laminated board map of where you think the treasure is, and it was just absolutely hilarious because he just went, "Is it there?" "No." "Yeah, it is." And he went, taking me. He separated all the components out, was handing them out, goes, "Make sure you've got this, make sure you've got that, make sure you've got this." So it's like, it was 20 minutes to set up the game, and then it was like 5 minutes to play it, and everybody kind of laughed at the time, and everybody went, "Oh, this could have gone on a little bit longer, it's not that." Yeah, but on the same time, I've done that with Scythe. I remember kind of having to set up Scythe and play that, and then realised we kind of got into round number 5 and then had to pack up before we were even fully through the game. So we've kind of been there and kind of done that. With the games that you're doing, is there a big box game from Mr. Aramini? Are we going to be getting the huge 52,000 miniatures? Electronic. Is there a Gloomhaven within you?
There's probably not a Gloomhaven on the horizon anytime soon. This is actually the first. So this is like the 8th game I've come out with, and this is the first game that actually has a board. Every other game's been just card based. So this is my big box game as of my moment in where I'm at. But I'm kind of tinkering around with sort of a little bit more complex systems, which sort of get into longer, more components, that kind of stuff. But it's the more complicated, the harder it is to design, I'm finding. So right now with where I'm at in my sort of design career, it seems like, simpler, more streamlined games I seem to have more success with. But I'm kind of branching out there and seeing how it goes. And, it's we'll see what happens. Maybe down the road. maybe I'll have my Gloomhaven someday. But right now, it's still, they're fairly. Most of the games that I'm doing are like kind of that within 1 hour and not too many.
Yeah, which means
parts.
it's going to, again, it comes back to that thing, is that do you have to do a Gloomhaven? Do you have to have the big game? What's wrong with having continually producing games that you know people are going to get to the table and play? You know?
Yeah, well, and I just in terms of my experience, I think it's, if you're a newer designer or a designer trying to break into the industry like me, I do feel like smaller games or games that are a little bit more approachable are probably an easier sell in terms of getting the game signed. There's not many publishers that can take on 500 miniatures and a $200 game, if you're not an established designer. So just from a practicality standpoint, I'm trying to sort of be realistic in terms of, okay, if I want to, this game to sort of get out there in the wild, trying to keep it streamlined is probably in my best interest too. But also I think it's just inherently, those are the types of games I like too.
And just increasing your odds of winning as well, to use a horrific gambling expression. I mean, what we'll do is we'll make sure, obviously, that the link to the Kickstarter goes in the show notes, so that we have kind of notes to show everybody. But if people want to keep an eye about on you on the internet webs, where can we find you on the internet webs, Steven?
I am just at Steven Aramini, StevenAramini, on Twitter, and then the same handle on Board Game Geek. Those are, if you reach out to me there, that's where you'll find me. But most active on Twitter, and I mostly just kind of tweet about my game design and just game experience type stuff. So if you're into that, then definitely check it out.
Excellent. And what we'll do, as I say, we will make sure we stick that into the show notes so that everybody can follow you, whether you want them to or not, I guess. It's one of these things. And as I say, we'll also make sure that the Kickstarter link is there as well. If you want to keep an eye on what we are up to, you know where to find us. Come on. 230 odd episodes. If you don't know now, however, if you've not been listening to us before, then thank you for listening. But you can find us on various parts on the internet, internets, webs, whatever. Go to Twitter, We're Not Wizards. Facebook, We're Not Wizards. You go to Instagram, We're Not Wizards. Apparently Facebook's turning this all into one thing anyway, so it's all just going to be We're Not Wizards regardless of where we are. You can find us on YouTube, which is We're Not Wizards Tabletop Podcast. You can find us on all the podcast catchers as well, which is Stitcher and Spreaker and Acast, and you can go to our website, which is we'renotwizards.com, or our blog, which is we'renotwizards.blogspot.com, or you can email us, which is magic@we'renotwizards. We're just everywhere. We're like a disease. We're the pandemic legacy of the podcast world, everywhere. If you like what you've listened to tonight, there's two things you can do. Tell somebody about it. And the second thing is, if you jump onto Apple Podcasts, you can give us a rating or a review. We say, as always, don't give us 10 stars because it makes us big-headed. But at the same time, don't give us 1 because it makes us cry. And we're not getting any younger, so we are very ugly when we cry. Give us a 5 because it's in the middle and it's a bit average. And we're just a little bit average. But the person who's not been average is rather wonderful, rather fantastic. Mr. Steven Aramini. Thank you very much, sir, for coming on. It's been
Thank you for having me.
There is only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Steven?
We are not wizards.
The next thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Steven. Say goodbye, Steven. And goodbye, it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll6s.com. And there's only a couple of days to go on Animal Kingdoms. So we like Carla lots, so, and this is another way to kind of make sure that fantastic games, are getting to people's tables as well. So check out the link in the show notes. Check out the campaigns. Check out the artwork, because it's absolutely fantastic. The game looks like an awful lot of fun. Just, go and have a look. But until the next time, goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.